Good morning, Beeville. This is Cindy Clark from PAC-B TV, and I'm here via Zoom with Lisa Saunders. We've been fortunate enough to have her do several interviews with us before. She has walked the Erie Canal for a very near and dear cause to her heart, CMV, and I will let her explain that. But she has completed her trip, and now we're going to hear a little bit about how she got started with all of this, and maybe the trials and tribulations along the way, some of the funny episodes, and then she's going to show us some pictures of her long journey. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Cindy.
How are
You
you?
don't, you do not look like you're in Baldwinsville.
Well, I'm not. I tried to do different backgrounds, and I'm not an expert at Zoom. So sometimes with some of the backgrounds, it gets a little weird. So we'll just leave it. This is San Francisco. So
Yeah,
we can
I
hope
figured
maybe
that
that
was
we can go
San
to San
Francisco.
Francisco.
No, it looks really nice. I enjoy looking at that because
Well, I
I
like it.
have been there.
I do like
I'm
it.
in front of my fake picture of Lockport, anyway, which is along the Erie Canalway Trail. So I got started on thinking about walking the entire Erie Canalway Trail between Buffalo and Albany. We moved here in 2019, 2020, there's a pandemic. I was trying to get laws passed on cytomegalovirus, or CMV, they call it, which is the leading birth defect virus. And it's also just a general leading cause of disabilities like deafness, autism, cerebral palsy. Let me share my slides with you and show you. Let's see. So what we did is when we kept seeing these signs, Canalway Challenge along the trail. And I realized, oh, we should register what we're doing on it. And I'm so glad I did. Their little tagline is tracing history, tracking miles. And that's really what you're doing. Now, if you see the different mileage there, first 15, 90, 100, 360, you can take
Yep.
any of those challenges. And 360 means you're going to become an end-to-ender. And that's what I officially am now. On top of being a Canalway Challenge ambassador now, I am an end-to-ender, and I've never had such an important title as that. Because the only time I ever won anything was like in 5th grade. I won a pie eating contest, and that's the only thing I had to show for my sports. But now I am an end-to-ender. Anyway, so we would log in. This is just showing you how I logged in. We gave ourselves a team name in the effort of raising awareness. So it's Lisa and Jim Saunders to stop CMV, #1 birth defects virus. That title is a little too long because it gets cut off in your certificate. So people that want to register, maybe try to, just do a few, like 1 or 2 words less. Anyway, so then every time we walked, we logged it in. So if you see down here, it's got date. So that would be the day, how many miles we walked that day. And I was kind of just showing where we parked, because sometimes we wouldn't go back to that spot for a couple months later. And I'd be, oh, where do we park? Where can we next park? So that kept all my notes together in one spot. And then it would ask you, what are your favorite sites? So in this case, if you see down here, I'm putting Armory, and another site, I put grain elevators. This was when we were in the Buffalo area. So because it asked us favorite sites, but even before that, I decided I want to find out what are the 7 wonders of the Erie Canalway Trail. Since we're on the trail and not boating the river, that would wouldn't be able to use some of the sites. Anyway, so we kicked it off in Camillus, which is the half point on the trail. So because we actually live very close to Camillus. So we began in April of 2020, and I really go back to there all the time, not only because it's close to me, but there's so much to see there. You can see in the background there, the Sim store. It's a replica of a canal store. There's a boat ride you can take, which is absolutely fascinating because you're going to take it over the aqueduct, and the tour was just wonderful. I learned so much. Anyway, so this is kind of showing you what we see along the way. There's my husband with our stuffed mule Sal. We had to bring her because she's so famous. So she's showing you where we are in Camillus. And again, I love Camillus because there's just so much to look at. You know, it doesn't have, the museum doesn't have to be open for us to find lots of signs to read and lots of things to look at, a lot of artifacts they brought there. So we read a lot of signs, like on this site in 1897, nothing happened. I mean, 1897, nothing happened. And I just thought that was so cute, like the
It is.
humor. Yeah. And being a cat lover that you are, there is a plaque to a canal cat that they want everyone to think about. And so I always look at the canal cat, you know, plaque. So there's just a lot of life that happens there, and a lot of people go there, a lot of locals. It's a lot of fun. The signs were fun to read. Like I said, we didn't have much to do slogging along. So I always liked it. Like, here's winter, canal drain open. I just thought that was interesting. If you can tell that there's a little opening and water's going down through it.
Mhm.
I thought that was interesting. Just Erie mansion, B&B, you know, people trying to make money along the way with their businesses that they have. And I just thought that was great. I didn't pay to go in, but I'm just saying it's just kind of fun to see what's along the way. Sometimes if there's a detour, it's super helpful when people put signs like that up. Usually they always have a detour sign, but I was a little confused at this section in Rome. So I was very happy that somebody had stuck this up. People, like I said, we're all united. We're all in this journey together. And it's kind of cool how we all help each other out, even if I never meet them. I think that's cute in our town. It says, reminds me to share. So
I
Jim and I
know.
shared the trail. I wasn't sure who I was supposed to be sharing it with, but I at least shared the trail with my husband.
I love the hats, by the way.
Oh, thanks. You know, sometimes landowners aren't too happy that the trail goes right next to their house. But I mean, this is
Right.
just a friendly reminder, stay on the trail or stay home.
Right.
And I get it. I don't blame them. And these were so welcoming. This sign, water and bathroom, it was just great. It was this little church right off the trail. We went in, nobody was there, but they stocked it with, you know, individual waters and snacks. And I
It's
just thought,
nice.
oh, it was so nice. It was, you know, of course, and there's a bathroom. You know, it was so wonderful. And I did write them a note and thank them. Actually, I sent them a donation in the mail, just because I appreciate it. And here's just a property owner saying free water. And that some days that's really critical because we didn't always bring enough water, because you always have to decide, okay, how much more weight do we want in our pack? What's the
Right.
likelihood that we're going to be thirsty, you know, or wish we had brought more. So we're always trying to estimate. We're not always right by how much we should bring. And so I really appreciated this property owner. Now, others people
Word
like,
dog.
yeah. And this other sign read, due to price of increase of ammo, do not expect a warning shot, you know? So some of them are kind of funny.
It is. I wonder if
I
it's true.
I know. So like I said, I enjoyed reading. Most of the signs were funny. And these are some of our challenges that we faced. This is really, like, it was raining so hard we
You
didn't
can
even
see
want to
it.
walk in it, you know, because we hadn't gotten used to always bringing an umbrella. Like I said, we've learned from past mistakes that we had to just stand under this bush and hoped it wouldn't get struck by lightning. We didn't think it would be, because it was a tall bush, but it wasn't the tallest thing around. But anyway, we got lucky enough that this couple saw us looking miserable by the side of the road, and they pulled over and asked us if we wanted a ride. And we're like, yes, thank you. I
Wow.
don't know who they are, but just nice couple, just shoved all their junk to the side and let us squeeze in. It was wonderful. Here's one of that was rare. That we only had hit flooding one time. And usually there's warnings about those kinds of things.
Oh,
This
okay.
is where I realized, okay, I need to carry extra socks in case we face this again. So
Right.
that, you know, like, so we don't have trench foot. I don't know how long it takes to get trench foot, but I read a
Well, what
lot of
is
it.
that? What is
What?
trench foot? What is
I
it?
don't know, something like your feet rotting because they're
Oh,
wet. I don't know. There's something more. I should have had a better description for you, but my Jim's uncle would told me about his trench foot that he got sitting in a tank in World War II, and he had wet socks. And so
oh.
I always think about that. Again,
Well, I'm glad you carried extra socks.
I know, but I always wanted, I like to imagine myself on an epic journey. So that's why, of course, I'm going to make things worse than they really were. But because I want people to be impressed that I did this. That I
That's
finished
right.
it.
Well, I am.
Okay,
Oh,
this is,
nice. A porta potty.
Yeah, but it's locked.
Locked.
You see my expression?
Yes.
I think
What's up with that?
I was actually there because I think they were doing some construction or something with so it was probably for the construction workers, and it wasn't when they were working, so I think they locked it.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't from the trail people, but like I said, that's a big issue. So Jim would have to look the other way. I I never actually used it, but I
That's
did.
what short bushes are for.
But I bought biodegradable toilet paper. I never ended up having to use it, but I did carry it just in case. This was the thing that would really mostly scare me, when that would suddenly surprise me. And they were always like these little things that aren't scary, but of course I would always scream and get upset.
What kind of snake is that, you know?
No,
It's
it
not
looks
like a boa constrictor or a python,
no,
is it?
no. I just, I don't know. They just alarmed me when I would run across one. And like I said, we were actually downtown Syracuse for this. The Erie Boulevard in the center strip, they created a trail, and it's actually not bad. I thought, oh, who wants to be that in the middle of the highway or, major road? But it was actually not bad. And it was fun because you see things, you're looking left and right, knowing that you're walking on what was once the actual canal. So I'm looking at the little hills and thinking, oh, this is what they saw, 200 years ago. So I didn't mind that at all. I was actually appreciated it because it made it easy not being on the side of the road. But it
Now,
was great.
do you have your mask on for the wind?
No, yes, I don't know, it was one of those days where I think the thing said, like, it feels like 20. I think it's probably 0, but it feels like 20 below. I mean, it was cold. So
Ooh,
that was to keep us, yeah. And as you can see from my hair, there was a lot of wind. Um, that was probably the coldest day, but we did it.
you muddled
This,
through.
yes. And here's the ice. That was really hard, but we met a couple. So what cleats do you use? So they told us the kind, because ours kept falling off. So they told us the kind they bought online. So we bought the same kind, and it really helped because that's not wet trail. That is a sheet of ice
Wow,
that you're seeing Jim about.
that's dangerous.
Yeah, it is, unless you have the cleats.
Right,
So that was a huge help because, like I said, we couldn't pick the best weather to go in. We had to go when we had a chance between caregiving responsibilities.
right.
So anyway, we went, but we always had the right equipment. Um, this was tough in the pandemic in winter, especially. Nothing was open practically. See how Sal looks so sad, at a closed
I know
restaurant
it. He's
sign.
hungry.
So Jim hates that picture of himself, but I think he looks like doesn't he look like a polar explorer? You know what I mean? Except
Yeah,
for the state fair in the background. But it looked, we were just so cold and felt everything's closed. So I decided, sailors and soldiers of old ate hardtack when conditions were like this. So I made it. You can buy it, but it's pretty expensive, at least when I saw it online. So I made it. It's a simple flour, water, salt. I made it and I soaked it in coffee there with my book, Hardtack and Coffee, if you can see that over there. Because I thought, well, maybe I should carry this on the trail, but it's not really that realistic. I could have carried it on the trail, but I was just trying to be a little adventurous.
I like I like where you say it's kind of tasteless and unappealing.
Yeah, it really is. And
It doesn't look that good.
and you can die of scurvy if that's all you're eating because there's no vitamin C in it. So I decided we just stuck to trail mix because that was the best bet, and protein bars and stuff like
Well, I give that's good. It does not look good. No.
that. So yeah, this is, like I said, that's really what we lived on in the winter, especially when everything was closed. But one thing I have to say, in these little villages, and during the pandemic, a pizza place was always open. So if we got to a village during the pandemic in the winter, we could at least get pizza usually. But other than that, it was trail mix. And of course, we had deep snow sometimes. So I got snowshoes, but they don't really help in light, fluffy snow. They're better for
Oh,
like the lumpier, in my opinion, at least the kind that I got. If it's deep and fluffy, you're just still sinking like, and they're not, I'd rather just wear boots. And if you find a swing set, they're very awkward.
Yes, I would think so.
So I kind of ditched those and just found it's either wear ice cleats or just warm boots. So we would just trudge on through the snow.
What kind of
Um,
boots did you have? Because I always get concerned about my hands and my feet getting cold.
they were such good boots. Keen, if that's a brand, I think that's the name of it. I've had, they're like 5, 6, 7 years old. They were really my faithful companion. They were just perfectly thick and warm and lovely. But I
They
still
did
had to
keep your
put
feet
cleats on them.
warm?
Yes,
Okay.
they were great and good support. The other problem was most all there's a lot of benches along the way. Thankfully, Boy Scout groups or people honoring the
Right.
memory of a loved one would put a bench, and I can't tell you how much I appreciated them. But we still had to face long parts of the trail without a bench. So we actually learned to carry our own seats. You know, it adds a little weight. Like I said, we're constantly evaluating water, seat, do we want to carry that? Plus, I had to stop seeing V Rock. You know, these things added up. But we, being older, I guess, it's not that comfortable to sit on the ground. A younger person is like, they're not going to go for the seat. They'd rather just sit on the ground if they need to sit.
Well, and I would imagine at some point there weren't a lot of dry places or even potentially
Right.
comfortable places to sit on the ground.
Right. Not always. There were a lot of places, but I loved
Oh,
this planter. Like to me, it just made me feel like this is what my feet feel like because I get so sore when we walked more than we kind of find that 6 miles was easy, but when we would get up to 8, 9, 10, that's when our feet, knees, and hips would hurt. Because it's not like you're slowly doing it over the day. You know what I mean? If you're sightseeing, you know how you can walk that much and don't even realize it. But when you're just putting one foot in front of the other, after a while, it's the heat. We called them the death marches. It could be so hot sometimes. So this is again, I learned to carry. This is actually a sun catcher, not technically an umbrella, but it worked as well. But my cousin makes these Chrissy sun catchers, so I always had that. Um, and so the shade helps me a little bit. But this was a day that it was so hot and we did not bring enough water. And a man found us when we were in the trail more in the woods. And he said, can I please buy any amount of water from you? And I only had a sip. And I said, I am so sorry. We are down to our last sip. So I have to tell you, I feel a little guilty about him, but we were dying and we still had a long way to get to our car. That was the worst that we ever felt. And then we did see him again, and he said he ended up drinking from a brook. And I thought, oh my gosh,
oh,
I don't know. I hope he's still alive. But it made me think I got to get a water purifier for the really long marches if I just don't want to bring the
that's a good
weight.
idea.
But now I would just add the weight. You know, it because I don't want to have to turn away somebody from my water. I'm still feeling a little guilty about that. And here's
Oh,
just
how pretty
walking,
that
but
is.
yeah, walking at sunset, you can't beat it. You know, I can't get my husband up to walk, you know, at sunrise because I'm sure that's beautiful too if you're heading east. But isn't that beautiful? We saw
It
some
is.
beautiful sunsets. This is walking east toward Albany. We're in actually in Amsterdam. It's called Skahari Crossing, and this is an old lock. It's just beautiful, fog in the water. Loved it.
That looks like that was creepy because that looks reminds me of movies I've seen,
Yeah,
like The Creature from the Black Lagoon or
right.
something like that. I know it.
It is beautiful. This to me
Oh,
was beautiful. An open bathroom.
wow. The small pleasures and that's one of the wonders of the world there.
Yeah, that was in Clyde. I took a picture of it. That sign was like, I was just, oh, that's beautiful. I didn't count it as a wonder of the Erie Canal Trail, but it was a beautiful thing. And any open restaurant was thrilling. I go to Towpath because I live near Jordan. I go to Towpath Pizza a lot. You know, that's very close to the trail. That's a building that you'll see in old Erie Canal pictures as well. In Clyde, it looks like a gas station, but it was actually a restaurant. And one time I was sitting there eating breakfast, very happy to have a waitress, you know, a full meal. And this lady's giving me breakfast, and there were all these hunters around me. And they said, have you seen any deer on the trail? I'm thinking, I'm not telling. You know, like, I don't know what they're allowed to do or where, but yeah, Jim and I did see deer, but I never told them where they were. And a comfy
Oh, a
bench.
bench.
Oh, look at how beautiful this is. This
It
is
is.
memory of Brian McNeil. This is in Memphis. And that was just like a love. It was a garden oasis. It was just beautiful. And we deeply appreciated it. And or any uncomfy seat is
Yeah.
fine with us. Just anything that we could sit on was great with us. So we probably sat on every guardrail across the state because that would relieve us sometimes. But one
And
time,
those aren't comfortable either.
no, but it's better than nothing. And one time there was a bench and it was a really hot day, but it was next to a dead possum,
Oh dear.
oh, I can still smell it. But it was the only bench around and it was hot. And I sat there with the flies and the dead possum, but that's what you'll do. I didn't take a picture of the dead
Well, let me
possum.
get on their trail tomorrow.
And this was like Shangri-La to us, you know, in Brockport. Like, look at all that. Oh, free bikes and bathrooms. And you can see a blue cell up on their patio. There's mule figures all across, you know, the state. And they were just, and whenever we'd meet with volunteers, they were always interested in what we were doing. And so it was just fun to have. And
So you can borrow a bike?
yeah, yeah.
That's a good idea.
Isn't that a good idea?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So, like I said, it was true to me, this was truly a welcome center.
I would say so. That's
And that's
very,
actually,
very nice.
this is actually where I bought our stuffed mule Sal. It was a fundraiser for them. And this is
Oh,
also a
okay.
beautiful thing. We did have friends that met us in Amsterdam. So we'd have two cars, which really made it so much easier because we'd all, you know, drop each other and then go pick up the car. And you know what I mean? We just didn't have to double back. So it's a beautiful thing when you see somebody waiting for you with a car.
Because you're right. You actually walk it twice. You're
Right.
right. Yeah.
So
If you
that
don't
was
have transportation to get you back to your own car. Yeah.
right. Um,
Oh, how cute
Convenient
that
parking
is.
spots. This was always nice. Like here's in Lyons at the Hotchkiss Essential Oil Company. This is their building. But before that, when I met the historian there, I learned that my ancestor, Jacob Leach, his family did flour. They made flour there. It was a flour mill. And the Erie Canal used to run right up behind this building. And so they would load and unload the barges with that. It was a flour mill. And if we couldn't find parking, what Jim and I did was we would ask the locals, do you think we could park here if it really, you know, if I was not sure? And they would tell us. And if we really weren't sure, we would put a sign in our dashboard. You know, we
Good
hope it's
idea.
okay to park here. We're walking the trail. You know, I told them we're trying to raise awareness for CMV, but if this is a problem, call my cell phone, you know,
Nice.
and we gave our cell phone number. So that's how we handled that. And we never had a problem. Like I said, there are a lot of parking spaces along the way, but for people like us who have to double back to the car, do you know what I mean? We really
Right.
kind of wish there was a parking space every like 4 miles, but there wasn't always. But anyway, but again, just Erie brewing companies all along the way. It was just a lot of fun to see what was around. And of course, beer was a big thing then and now. Yeah, this is Weedsport. Again, the canal is no longer there. It's 31, but we meet friends there all the time. And then we still go there a lot because it's near where we live. And we always see bicyclists. And the bicyclists, I have to say, they're always the fittest looking people because they're not sitting around eating all night like
Right.
we, do you know what I mean? They're mean and lean and they're trying to probably bike 30, 40 miles a day, you know, because they're a lot of times they get like they'll fly to one spot and then ride one way and take their plane, you know, get public transportation. They're not usually doing it back and forth, but yeah, these are younger people that still have jobs, you know what I mean? And they can only take so
Right.
long. So they mean business and they are so lean, those bicyclists. And they just whizzed past us when Jim and I were walking while we're relaxing all the time and every chance we got. Again, feeder free. Oh, there's my boots. You were asking me what my favorite boots
Yeah,
are. There they are.
I like them.
Yeah, they're very warm, waterproof, soft inside. So when we'd see outdoor fires, we were so thrilled because then we could warm up, you know, when we're so cold. This is not right on the trail, but we always had our car because we were driving to different sections along the trail. So it was nice that just to go a couple miles off and go into Rochester to this brewery. That was just so cool because look what's behind the brewery, you
I
know.
know, it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous and it's a
It really
huge
is.
brewery. It's just fun, you know, a lot of fun. We spent a lot of time here in Little Falls. We slept there at this, it's a cafe at Stone Mill. It's also an inn, and it used to be a building that made the uniforms for the Union Army. And I just thought that was cool. So that we just loved going there and sleeping there because we loved, yeah, having a place to eat and sleep. And we'd meet a lot of people on the trail that were doing the trail that would sleep there. And look at the history, you
I
know.
know. And
So
look at that building. That's the original building.
I know. So it
I bet
was,
it could tell some stories, huh?
I know. And it was great because we could eat, oh, you know, when you eat on there, you're eating over the river, the Mohawk River. It's just beautiful. And there was a brewery right next to it or across the street.
Of course.
So there's Gina, all happy in his brewery.
Of course.
And this is cool because this is, you know, right off Route 90 near us, Port Byron. And look at that. Isn't that great? Like
I've been
here's,
there. Yes,
yeah,
it's very interesting. And they offer everybody that works there has so much to talk about. They're very knowledgeable, and
right.
there's so much history in this little area there in Port Byron. I
Yes. And
remember that
that's,
cash register. I do.
yes, that's the original cash
Yep.
register. And they said it was the 15-cent button was really worn down because that's how much a growler cost of beer. And that's an original building. So it's really, and I believe the bar is original too, or
I think it is.
I think it's original. Anyway, that's a great place to go. It's not open all year round, so you have to go, you know, in the warmer season.
Right.
But it's a great, great museum and visitor center and all that. I would love to have eaten there. Look at that. It's still serving. It just wasn't open in the winter. But this is an old tavern. Can't you just imagine people on the canal like getting off and sleeping there and eating there or whatever? So that is someplace I want to go next time we have a chance. This is in Pittsburgh. So look how beautiful it is. I mean, a lot
It
of the
is.
trails, I mean, to us, fall was our favorite season. So we would discuss, you know, what should be the 7 wonders. And we came up with 11 contenders. So Flight of Five, you just can't beat that. This is where the picture is behind me. And we were on a boat ride. So that's where that picture you're seeing. But
Interesting.
it's phenomenal. It's
Oh my
fun. It's
gosh.
packed. It takes you two to get through it, but they've you know, redone the other ones. You know what I mean? It's just like a beautiful thing to look at it. Can you tell how? I don't know if you could tell how deep that lock is, but
It looks deep.
yeah, it's just very deep.
Oh my heavens.
Yeah, so the trail, you get to walk beside that, and that's just, I don't know, we went there a lot because we would stay in a hotel there and then, you know, go either east or west, depending on what we still had left to do. But there's a museum there. There's a lot to do in Lockport, I think, and a lot of restaurants that we liked. Of course, a contender is the Syracuse
Local.
Waylock building.
Mm-hmm.
Only one left on the trail. It's fascinating because not only is it a museum, but I thought it was cool that they put a replica of barge in there so you can see what it looks like when the barge would flow in there and then get weighed. You know, they drain the water out and weigh it, or however they did it.
Now, is that going to be similar to the barge that comes through Baldwinsville in October?
It looks similar, but I don't have it imprinted in my head what it looks like, but it's going to be similar to that.
I would think so. Yeah.
This is a thrill, lift lock 17, one of the highest lifts locks in the world, and it's
Look at that.
amazing. Amazing. And it's got a guillotine gate, which is what you're seeing there. So it goes up and down instead of opening out like those ones that normally do.
Right.
It lifts up and down these heavy chains. It's fun as heck to watch people go through it. And 9 Mile Creek Aqueduct, contender number 4. It's the only restored aqueduct on the trail, on the canal. And my friend is above that, Cindy. Below it, can you see the wood underneath?
Yes.
That's that. I finally, because they restored it, I finally understand how an aqueduct works. There was a wooden trough in there to hold the water in there. And so the boat could just flow right through it. And in this case, it's going over a creek. So
Okay.
so I finally understand the whole aqueduct thing, which I just couldn't before.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And so here it is from up above. It's a little harder to see when you're above, but where that little boy, underneath where that boy is fishing, that's a wooden trough that's holding that water in there. And I think lift bridges should be a contender because that's just kind of fun to watch them lift, straight up and down. I thought that was very interesting.
Yes, it is.
And there's several of them. And the small picture on the left, that's in Fairport. That is very unique. It's an irregular decagon, a 10-sided structure, and crosses the canal at a 32-degree angle with a 4% slope. No two angles in the bridge are the same, and no corners on the bridge are square. And that's from the Erie Canal.org site. Anyway, so I thought if I was going to have one of those be it, that should probably be the one. But anyway, and I thought the movable dams, I'd always wondered what those were. So
Never heard of it.
yeah, those are those things you see and you kind of wonder, did the road fall off on either side? But it's not a bridge, it's a dam. And there's things underneath it that go up and down to regulate the water flow. And when you go on the Erie Canal.org site, you can find Erie Canalway.org site. There's like videos of how these things work. It gives you a lot more information about them. So these are still in use. This is, the modern or current active Erie Canal. I thought I was a little torn whether this should be a contender, Richmond Aqueduct, because it's not on the trail. Boaters would see it because it's on the river, but on the Seneca River. But anyway, it's just really interesting. It's ruins. It doesn't go straight across anymore. But you get a real sense. You can get very close to it. I thought it was really interesting.
I know. There's so many things here I never even knew at all.
Yes, and you live near me, and this is near you.
I see the ones around here, but that's as far as I've gotten. You're encouraging me to maybe not walk the whole thing, but some of it.
Yeah, you should walk that. Because I don't know. I think it was like a mile off. I don't remember how far I had to go, but they mow it, and you can go walk down there and see old original canals, and you see that, and it's just very interesting. And I was torn about whether dry docks should be the new dry docks that are used, because I thought that was interesting. This one's
it is.
Where boats are fixed.
Very interesting.
Or the old one, the ruins.
Oh,
because look at that. Like, where are you going to see that?
That's all the original stone.
Right. So this is in Chittenango Landing Canal Boat Museum.
That's amazing.
When I had walked by that part, the museum was closed, but a lady there was nice enough, Jenny, to send me a picture so I could.
Well, it's very nice. It's very nice. Yeah. Oh my heavens.
And upside down bridge. I thought that should be a contender. Look how weird that looks.
It is.
The truss or trestle, what do you call that? Truss is positioned upside down. Now the rumor is because they didn't want canal boats to be able to get under it with too much stuff. I don't know if that's true or not. Because they were competitors of the train.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not.
That's definitely weird.
I know, it's weird. And I thought the tiny lock tender's house was very
Isn't that cute?
Yeah, it is cute. And so that's in Jordan.
That's very tiny.
Yeah, somebody used to live in it, but
Oh
it's
my
been
heavens.
restored. Now it's in a little museum. It's great. And Contender 11, Mural Mania. I mean, we're lucky in central New York because there's, I mean, they have them all along the canal, but especially in central New York, you'll see them all the time, these canals. And there's a lot of painters here that is their mission, to paint life along the canal. And
Look at the talent there in painting that. That
Dawn
is
Jordan
so
is just
interesting.
fabulous. She's done a lot of them in our area.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is in Jordan. It's beautiful.
I love it.
And murals, of course, star in these murals. Here's Sal. And I thought this was interesting because it's a mosaic painted by art students from across New York State, ranging from elementary to college age. So they would paint a section and then they put them all in together.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Here's another one by Dawn Jordan. This one's in Weedsport. And she's showing you, the signs are great because it tells you what you're seeing. And like I said, you see a lot, that building is still there, that big reddish one. So that's fun, obviously, to see what's still there.
Imagine living in that time.
I don't know. I don't like outhouses, or, you know what I mean? That's the big thing I would be unhappy about, but I wouldn't know to be unhappy about it. I think people just want
Right.
it now. I don't know. But anyway, but this painting by Robert Gillespie, that really captured us in Clyde, because that's Lincoln. He stopped in Clyde. It's more close up, and thankfully for the historians who put what he said and everything. This is what he said. There were 3,000 people there. He said, "I merely appear before you to say good morning and farewell. I did not come to make a speech, nor have I time to make one if I did. I now bid you good morning, and when the train starts, I will come out again to bid you farewell." Mark DeCracker, the co-founder of Mural Mania, learned that my ancestors, father and son Jacob and Augustus Leach of Lyons, were engineers on the Erie Canal. So he said, I'll paint them on the next mural. And so he told me to email them pictures of them, and I did. So here's a sample of what Augustus Leach looked like.
Oh.
And him getting on the canal. So that was a thrill. And then
it is. I would be totally thrilled.
And there I am painting. I'm helping to paint. So I just did the little yellow, I don't know if they're dandelions or what they were. All I had to do was do a little dot, because I'm not an artist at all.
And look at where you got just from walking the canal. Look at the involvement you got. That is just
and it's
so different.
Like I said, I just met so many people. I mean, Mark and I still talk now. You know what I mean? We collaborate. He did a really cool event for me. But anyway, so there's Darlie. She's interviewing Corey, and it's a great interview because he just talks about, he's an Iraq war Army veteran, and he talks about having PTSD, and he just says painting really helps him. You're just painting one, you don't have to worry about anything. You're just worrying about that one little section. And I thought it's just a good statement on art in general, or whatever it is. If you like to write or garden, it helps you to keep your mind focused on the task at hand. Anyway, I think he's a phenomenal artist.
It is. It's fabulous.
There's my backside that made it into the
That's wonderful. That's a good thing. Yes, it is.
And there they are. They're on the trail, along the side of the building near the dry dock in Lyons.
That's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
And this is from a real place, Lock 56. It was called Poorhouse Lock 56. And there's information about Jacob, the father, how he was in charge of that area, Poorhouse Lock. Whatever it is that an engineer does, I don't know, hires people, or farmers, I don't know what he did exactly. But anyway, there they are. I think that's called a bulkhead.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. But like I said, if we didn't have a cause, I think we might have bailed out, because this is a lot of what we see. This long trail stretching ahead of us. We know it's going to take us years. And like, when would we ever become end-to-enders?
Well,
But
you
I
are.
but I know, but and I just so I didn't want to abandon ship, but there are times I'm like, Jim, why are we doing this? He goes, come on,
Right.
you know you like it. You know what I mean? So sometimes we would have to just egg each other on because while other people are, running around the Finger Lakes doing wineries, this is what we're doing, on our time off is we're walking one foot in front of the other.
Walking and walking and walking.
But we
Oof.
did it because we had a mission.
That's right.
So that was to stop CMV, this birth defect virus that, debilitated and ultimately killed our daughter. So
No.
in her memory, we are doing this.
Well, you did it. You stayed strong right to the end.
And these are the silver Stop CMV rocks that are painted by Kaya's mom. There's Kaya, and she cute.
Mm-hmm.
She loved to watch her mom paint. So another thing I wanted to do on this trail is to find out more about my Aunt Rebecca, who I'd always heard since a child that she drove into the Erie Canal. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's how she died. Where did she drive in? How did she drive in? And this is, she did it in 1941, the same year as the Pearl Harbor attack, which makes me wonder if that's why there wasn't more investigation done into
Could
this. But
be.
anyway, I found out from looking at old clippings about where she did it, and that was about in Brockport. I had clippings in the family, and so there she is. I always thought about her.
It's amazing you got all that information.
Yes. Well, a librarian helped me in Baldwinsville. Jackie Owens helped me get information. I had clippings in family papers. I had this picture of her already. And so I figured out from reading the descriptions of where they found her body that it's about here in the modern canal. And that piece of wood there is about where I estimate her car was found. It was a coupe. It was a two-door hardtop car. It was
Oh, how
found
sad
there.
is that?
I know. That's where it was found 4 days after she went missing. So these
Oof.
are articles that talk about it that were in the paper. And her husband, she went shopping, and then she never returned home. And then they did a boat with grappling hooks or whatever that is. The sheriff sent
Right.
out a boat because her brother-in-law found tire tracks going into the canal 4 days later. So they did that, and they found it pretty much right away. And the top of her car was damaged. And like, why in November? Like, are there boats there, or how did it get damaged? I wanted to know. And her body was shoved under the steering wheel, according to the newspaper. And I just thought, I don't know, really? Like, what is that? And here's the ramp. Like, I kind of reenacted it. She would have been coming from her home, which is the bridge that you see over the water.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently she made a right and then just drove right into the canal. And I thought, how easy or hard would that be? There were probably no guardrails then, but or at least I don't think there were. But so Jim and I did it to try it, and I can't say still if she did it on purpose or accident, because I could see if there's any bit of ice. It's kind of a sharp turn there. I don't know if you can really tell, but it's kind of you're heading straight toward the canal, and then you have to definitely make sure you're turning the car toward the left
Right.
to avoid going in. My friends, they also were curious when they walked the trail, so they took another picture of that road. But see how it's kind of a sharp turn?
It is.
Yeah, and so I videotaped ourselves driving down. I thought, gee, I wonder if that was an accident. And that's just publicity we got for Elizabeth's Law passing. So we got a lot of coverage. It was great. So here's memorable moments. We made it when we finally made it halfway on the trail, we took our picture. That's Jim taking our picture at the Fort Herkimer Church. Supposedly, it's one of the oldest churches in New York State. Saw a lot of action in the French and Indian War and American Revolution. Anyway, and then when the law passed, I've been in touch with Ashley of the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. I told her, oh, the bill passed. We've made it halfway. So she and Facebook just recognized what we did. And she said,
Well, I
congratulations.
love that.
But they oversee all this, the Canalway Challenge and everything.
Okay.
So that's who I'm in touch with. about the Canalway Challenge, and they have a Facebook page. And I just thought that was nice. They recognized us.
It was very nice.
Because like I said, we do suffer somewhat for doing this, but so like I said, maybe if anyone's reading this, I will no longer be the ship abandoner, you know?
That's right.
And this is another memorable moment when we finally finished our western end. We didn't actually, we'd already done Buffalo, but we had a little segment in Tonawanda we hadn't finished. So once we finished that segment in Tonawanda, that you're seeing that on the left, the Tonawanda area, we were so delighted. We spent the weekend in Niagara Falls and ate at this restaurant to celebrate.
It's
That's the Red
beautiful.
Coach Inn in Niagara Falls. That's about like, I don't know, 12, 15 miles away from the trail. So, you know, we drove there and then just slept there, and we did the Western finally.
I would have celebrated. Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
And there, another memorable moment. This is the last day. You know, we never know, you know, on the Eastern end, we never know, are we really going to be able to finish it? Because we knew we had 9 miles ahead of us. But it was a beautiful day. We had friends that were meeting us on the other end. So I made to be sure to pack Sal. And we really hoped, we got to do it. And we were so delighted when, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Water Villette or Water Valet.
I'm not sure. Probably water belay.
Yeah, I've heard it, I don't know, a couple ways. But anyway, we were thrilled. This is right off the trail. We were so tired and had to go to the bathroom. So even though it's not some special, unique restaurant, we're at Subway. We were delighted. They let us bring in Sal. We all had a sub to celebrate.
Looks
We were
good too.
almost in Albany.
Sale, I love it.
Then we did it. We made it to Albany.
What an accomplishment.
Yes, and I saw that other people's had signs showing what they did. So I put, Jim made the sign before we left. He carried it, and it said "End to Enders, walk to Erie Canalway Trail, Buffalo to Albany," and then it just said, you know, April 2020 to April 2025, and took us 9 miles. Friends greeted us at the East End and took photos, and then they were kind enough to drive our car back to Cohoes where we had parked. And I was just delighted to finish it in the bicentennial year. So that was thrilling. We went to celebrate that night, and we went and ate at the Old English Pub, which is only 0.8 miles from the trail. So look at that old building. Isn't that cool?
It is. That's the original building too, isn't it?
Yeah. So, you know, it was just, you know, we celebrated that night. It was just wonderful. Just so unbelievable. And I was glad we got to celebrate it with friends. I've been friends with Heather since I was born, basically, because her dad.
Oh, that's so nice.
It was just so nice that we got to do this together. And of course, they knew our daughter, Elizabeth, and they were always very kind to her. And so the next day, now that I'm in Albany, I was like, perfect timing. So I threw on a different CMV t-shirt, because I have all kinds of them. And I went to the Capitol because I wanted to go. This isn't the legislative office building. This is the Capitol.
Okay.
But I went, a building like next to it is the legislative office building. And I went to see members of the Assembly Health Committee and asked them, please pass it. There was 25 members. I gave some of them Stop CMV Rocks, or just materials on the law and why it's important to pass this new one where you test every newborn for CMV, because that way they'll have their hearing monitored and they might be a candidate for this antiviral that can improve brain function and halt the progression of the hearing loss. But I love that when I uploaded our pictures, I could have uploaded a lot of pictures on our last day. I didn't, but isn't that cool how
It is.
they put this little banner on it? So it makes me feel important. It says "End to Ender" on it, on that little banner.
Well, it is important, and I think you should be extremely proud of your accomplishment, because it's a very big accomplishment.
I am happy. And there's my mom after she did her first Smile Challenge. I just thought that was sweet. They put her in their newsletter and they recognized her, even though I'm the one who pushed her, but still. It was
fun. That was just a mile.
Tim and I pushed her, so you know, we took turns.
Okay.
And it was just fun, you know. It was a fun thing and then because I know so many families with kids in wheelchairs because of congenital CMV. Now I'm trying to encourage all them. Hey, push your child. You know, you can get a 1 mile challenge, because I used to sign my daughter Elizabeth up for all kinds of things, even though I did the work, because I just wanted her name somewhere that she did something, because she did it. She just didn't do it on her own steam, but She would have if she could have. And now I am a Canalway Challenge ambassador, as you can tell from my t-shirt.
Well, I
And
do
on the
like
back,
that t-shirt.
and on the back of it, like when I can walk on the trail, which like I said, I still do. On the back of my t-shirt, it says, "Ask me about the Canalway Challenge." And then I can and if they ask me about it, I can hand out these little cards.
Well,
That,
I'll tell you, you're a veritable fountain of information on all
I
of this. It's
know.
amazing because I've learned just in a few short minutes here, I've learned more than I ever knew about it. Because
Good.
really, now it encourages me to go out, like I say, maybe not walk it, but at least catch some of maybe the seven wonders.
Yes, I mean, really, it's worth a trip because they are, I think, fascinating. And here's the two guidebooks that I lived off of cycling the Erie Canal and the Erie Canal, Western New York. That booklet, that was for the water trail. But when you're walking the trail, the east and western side of it is on the active Erie Canal. So this is very helpful for restaurants and hotels and that kind of thing, and just
Oh,
good
okay.
maps. And you can get that for free. You can download it for free. I ordered it. I had to pay shipping, but it comes with a book and the maps. I just had to pay the shipping. And then I wrote a book. Basically, it's a lot of these slides that you're seeing with my stories and headings. Just a simple book, just to show, and it just has a little bit more information on my ancestors, engineering, and Aunt Rebecca and all that. But it's just mostly picture-driven book, walking the Erie Canal Trail, because I didn't want to forget it. Search for the seven wonders, bathroom and beer to stop CMB. So
And it's
that
something to share with everybody.
yeah, if they want to look at it, people can just read the free stuff. There's a sample online, and you can just click for free and read the sample just to get a feel, because the intro has a lot of information that's right on that you can get for free. That now you can see us sitting in our chairs. So, like I said, this way at least we had something to sit on. So these are chairs that we carried in. This is the end. And I just like this little scripture: stand at the crossroads and look, ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. And I have to say,
Perfect.
Jim and I found a lot of rest for our souls, just despite aching knees and all that. It really was relaxing to go out and look. That's really mostly what we saw, is the beauty of the water, wildlife, really something.
Well, I have to say it had to have been an absolutely unforgettable trip all the
Mm,
way. You meeting the people, getting the history, getting the exercise, working for a cause. And that's something that, like I said, that will be with you forever.
yep, yep.
Very
So
commendable. Very commendable. What a story, Lisa. I tell between you and Jim, I have to say that I'm so impressed with this journey of yours. Absolutely impressed.
well, thank you.
So, anyways, I hope the viewing public will take time to watch this, because to me it's absolutely fascinating, and it's worth the time to go through, because Lisa so aptly describes everything. I felt like I was there
Good.
without having the mosquitoes and having lack of bathrooms and benches. But I felt I was right there going through this trip with you, and it was just terrific. So make sure that you watch it from the stem to stern, beginning to be an under, like Jim and Lisa were. Just watch the whole thing and learn about the state. And for those of you who are really ambitious, take the trip. Right,
Yeah,
Lisa?
that's right. Like I
Take
said,
the trip.
you can even do it in 1 mile. If that's all you want to do, and then if you realize, oh, this wasn't bad, then you can roll it into the 15-mile challenge. You know what I mean? You don't have to take it all at once. And I'm going to kayak the next challenge. I'm going to try to do 15 miles kayaking, and that would be on the Seneca River, because there's those kayaks for rent right here in Baldwinsville.
Well, I've got to say, I give you so much credit for this, and it was beautiful. It was a learning experience, and it was good for my soul too, to see people like you that they have been so dedicated, not only to learning about our state and the canal, but also with the CMV. You know, it doesn't get any better than that, Lisa. Not at
Thank
all.
you.
It's fabulous. It's fabulous. So again, for all of you people, please watch right from the beginning to the end. and you will feel like I did, I'm sure, that you were traveling the journey with them. But thank you so much, Lisa. You have a great day, and congratulations to you and Jim.
Thank you so much, Cindy. All right, take
See you
care.
later. Thank you.
Bye.